Okay, so what we're going to be working on now is our statuses. So let's take a look at where the app is. We log in. And if we were to look at our stream currencies, we can see that we have a selection here for status, but we don't have anything in it. And we also need one for providers. So if I look at my status panel, we'll also want to have one more in here called providers. Hey there, JSTF. How are you doing? Welcome to the channel. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to pop them into the chat. Alright, so where is that? I'm looking for... It's on my currency streams. We want to have another one in here called providers. And we'll say that this is my active providers. And I want to add providers up here. Okay. Now this got upset at me. Could not find column with providers. It's because it's lowercase. All right, there it is. And now we have our active providers visible as well. So if I was to click on this, it says I can add a new status. So let's do that by doing this in a modal. So I'm going to create a new modal in here called a ng generate component shared modals, and we're going to call this my status create modal. And we'll put that in my module app. So let's look at my confirmation modal. We're going to take this stuff here and bring it in. And in my status create model, we want it to have a data title, data message, and then if I look at bot, we should be able to grab these input boxes. So this will be my subtitle, like that. We'll call this my Matt dialog title. This is my Matt dialog subtitle. And then in my Matt dialog content, hey, what's going on there, Metathias? Yeah, I got an ultra wide. How are you doing? Okay, so I look at the content for my Matt dialog, and we'll take it from here. And the first one is a Matt form field, and we're going to say that this thing is my status name. My placeholder will be name, and we'll put this as status name, as data.status name. Okay, we have another one, which is a time sec last activity before status. And this one will be time in seconds since last activity. And then we want to have one more, which is the quantity. Okay. Then this one will be my mat dialog footer. Look, I just want to know what you got. Oh yeah, no worries. It's a Predator, and it's 3440 by 1440, and it's ultra wide screen with curved. It's not mat dialog, it's mat card content. Okay, so now in my interfaces, yep, 100 Hertz, that's the one. When I look in here, I have a modal data called, right here, we'll make a new one called interface I status create modal data. And in this, we want to have a title, which is a string. We want to have a message, which is a string. I want to have a status name, which is a string. I want to have a time set last activity before status, which is a number. I want to have a quantity, which is a string. Nope, that's a number. I want to get a cancel message, which is a string, and I want to get a confirm message, which is a string. And a is confirmed, which is a boolean. Okay? So now what we're going to do is in my other modal here, I'm going to take this TypeScript and bring it in. What's WebFlash from this? I've never heard of that. Okay, this one is my status create modal. And we're going to inject my mat dialog data called I status create modal data. That looks good. We need to add this into my app module right here as a status create modal component. And then I think that's it. So now if I was to invoke this in my currency stream, app status, you should have this button called add new status, which is create status. And when we do this, we're going to look for confirmation dialog and take this example and bring it in. And this is a I status create modal data. And the title here will be create a status. Create a status for when to determine, create a status to determine to place the users in a stream. No, hold on. We'll just do this one with nothing on this. Is confirmed as nothing. We'll say confirm. We'll say cancel. We'll change this to be saved. We need to also have on this status name, which will be undefined. It'll be my time, which will be undefined, and the quantity, which will be undefined. And we want to do this for a mat dialog, so I'll bring that in. And then this is a status create modal component from slinging your side, hide to right, taking all the real estate. Yeah, I agree. It really does help. I like it a lot. Today's the first day I've used it, and I'm really happy with it. Okay, we're gonna make this thing enter status information below. And when we do this, it's going to close this, and if this is undefined, I'm going to do a alert closed success. Otherwise, I want to do a alert called closed fail. Okay, let's give it a run. Hey, Three Nipples. Greetings, welcome to the channel. Okay, here we go. We can enter our status information here, and we could say active, we could say 0, and the quantity is 5, and we could do a save, and it should say close success. If I add 1 and go back, it'll say close fail, so that's perfect. So what I want to do here is I want to do a this.loading equals true. And then I want to do a this.webhub.create status. So on my web hub, I'm going to have a new create status. And in this, we want to have a status create request. So we'll add this here as a create status, and we'll pass in the request. You also have to have on a status create request, it's a stream currency ID. And then up here, we want to have a receive create status. And this is a create status received. And then we'll add that up here as a create status received, which will be a bool. You also want to have one called statuses received, and then another one for statuses received, which will be an I status, and then a I status, and then a remove status received. So we have a receive create status, receive remove status, you want to have a receive statuses, which will be a status as I status array, and then you want to have one more, which is called a receive status, which is just one of these, like that. Down here we had the create status, we have a remove status, which will be an ID, which is a string called remove status, and then this is an ID, and then we also have the request statuses, which is a currency stream ID, which is a string called request statuses, and then finally you have one which is SignalR, which is just an ID. Then finally down here we need to have the get statuses, which is a I status array called statuses received. This is a get status, which is a I status, which is a return this status received, and then a get create status, which is a bool, and then this is a remove status received, which is a get remove status. Okay, so that's done. We need to have that on the Web Hub. So over here, we need to make a new class, or a new method called, we'll just do these, and we have request statuses, which is a currency stream ID, and we'll look on this thing, and I want to add in statuses get status, get status create, and a status edit, and a status delete, remove. There's no edit. So this is statuses get. And when I look in this interface, we'll take these, and I want to say this is a status DTO called read statuses asynchronous, and it's going to be in a currency stream ID. Hey, red light. Welcome to the channel. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them into the chat. We got an active and supportive community at our Discord. Make sure you check us out, discord.pixelhorrorstudios.com, and then I put all these videos up at youtube.pixelhorrorstudios.com. Read status asynchronous. This is a status VM called create status asynchronous. which is a status create request. Gotta love when it's already there. And then a delete status asynchronous. Just like that. Okay? So this is a read statuses asynchronous. And we're going to pass in my currency stream ID. And this is receive statuses. Okay, this next one is request status singular. So it's pretty similar to this one. And we're going to get my status get, and this is a read status asynchronous. Like that. Call it receive status, and we'll say status. This one is a create status, which is a create status, status create. And then we're going to do a create status asynchronous of my request, call it a status. And if in fact we're successful, then we're going to have a receive create status, I believe is what we called it. Yeah. This is a status create request. And then here you want to request your statuses for your request.currency stream ID, and you'll write it to the log. This one you're going to receive your create and say false. Let me go ahead and say that this is just called create status and remove status. And then this one is remove status, which is a status remove. And in this, we're going to do a read status asynchronous of your ID, and we'll call this status. So if this exists and we have a delete status asynchronous, then we can do a remove status here. And then this is my status.currency stream.id. This one here is remove status, as is this one here. So that's done. So now when we load this, I want to pass in a param, so we subscribe to it. Right here. And I want to add in here a route. Okay, and when I go to my status is being injected, so we could do this as a at input, and this could be a currency stream ID, which is a string. I'm a little confused as to what I did here. Hold on. Well, let's add this one. I don't know what's going on with this. Weird. That was weird. So we'll do an at input, and we'll say that this is a currency stream ID. It's a string. So when you do this, we'll do a this dot web hub service dot, and it's called a request statuses of my this dot currency stream ID. So up here we want to have a statuses received subscription, which is a subscription. And we want to have a on destroy. And then when I'm doing this ng on destroy, I want to do a this dot whatever this thing was called, statuses received subscription dot unsubscribe. I don't know why my project's not refreshing. And then I want to do this dot statuses received subscription, and we want to do a this dot web hub, and I want to do a get statuses, and we will subscribe that as a statuses I status array, and then I'll do this dot statuses equals statuses, and then I want to do a this dot data source dot data equals this dot statuses. And here, this one's fine. So now we should be receiving our statuses when this loads. So status is being injected by currency streams. Isn't currency streams actually routed to now? Yeah, currency stream singular is being routed to. So that comes out. Hey there, ST Lack. How are you doing? Welcome to the channel. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them into the chat. And this one should be injecting my status, and I want to do a currency stream ID is equal to this dot ID. So let's open this again. And do an ng serve on it. And over here, this thing is telling me that I haven't implemented my CRUD functions. So let's do that. Okay, we'll just go ahead and drag in here a virtual asynchronous task, like that. And I'm going to move these up so that they're with currency streams, which seems suited. And we can just copy these all in here. So this first one here is read statuses, which is my statuses where my currency stream ID is equal to the currency stream ID. And we want to include the currency stream, and we want to include the currency stream dot stream, because we want to make sure that my currency stream dot stream dot application user ID, is that right? Okay. And then we're going to put these into my status DTOs and map them across the pipe. Okay. The next set is these ones. So we'll put this into read status asynchronous, which is going to be my statuses, where we're going to do the ID is equal to that, and we want to include my currency stream and my currency stream dot stream, and this is going to be my currency stream dot stream dot ID. And if that does not equal to null, then we're going to map this to my stream VM, my status VM, sorry. The next is the create, which is here. And come on, if I look at this, we're going to say status from this request. This is my status. And then we're going to do a read status asynchronous. Okay, I need to look at my data access layer and make sure that status has a create request and an update request. We can get rid of the update request. Because this needs to have on it a string called an ID. And then this one is the delete, which we can take this one. And this is my status. And we want to get my include here the currency stream, and we want to include the currency stream dot stream. Like that. Looks good. So back over on my web hub, when we're doing the create, this is a little different. We want to say if my GUID.try parse of my request.id out var GUID, then if it doesn't, then we want to do this status, and we can do a status VM called status. And otherwise, we want to do this status equals update status asynchronous. And we'll have one more of this called update status asynchronous. And then if I look at my implementation of it, I want to do a update status asynchronous. And in here, all I'm going to do is my entity is my await my context.status.first or default asynchronous s where my s.id is equal to, and we need to do if my GUID.tryParse of my request.id out var GUID. And it's active. So if my entity does not equal to null, then we're going to do entity dot. Hey Nelzek, how are you doing? Welcome to the channel. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them into the chat. And if we have on the request, we have a quantity, status name, and time. Then you also have the entity.timestamp equals date time.utc now, and then we do a context.entry of my entity.state is equal to modified, and then we want to do a if my await context.save changes asynchronous is greater than 0, then we want to return my await read status asynchronous of my entity.id and my application user ID. And otherwise, I'll do a return null. Looks good. Hey QL Crisis, welcome to the channel. If you have any questions what I'm working on, please don't hesitate to put them into the chat. I am a level comp sci student in the UK and I need a fairly complex and challenging programming project for my final exam. Just wondering if you have any ideas. I do. Why don't you message me on the Discord? Pixelhorrorstudios.com. And then also I have all these videos up at Pixel Horror Studios, youtube.pixelhorrorstudios.com. I appreciate the support there. So that's looking pretty good. Now that we have the create status. So when we close this, I need to have my request here. So we'll have a const request is a I status create request. And I want to have in this thing, it's got what? The ID is the result. And this is a type of I modal status create data. So you have a result dot. I should have on this an ID. And then you should also have on this a status name, a time, and a quantity, and a currency stream ID. Like that. This one, it wants the ID here, which is nothing. We'll add in the that one for my subscription. And we'll input that. Looks good. Let me go ahead and recompile. Do you use all 10 of your fingers while you type? I do. I'm amazed at how good typist you are. Thank you. I appreciate that. Do you use proper 10-finger method? I type what feels comfortable. I feel that it's just better to be comfortable. So this is a currency stream component. Says in my app module that it's there. Yeah, if you're the guy who is, yeah, you're the student. So yeah, I have ideas to help you with your project. Currency stream, if you're interested. App routing module, can't find this. Psychotronic got it. Let's go ahead and run it. Take a look at streams. Looks good. We can look at the statuses. Here's my request. It's going to try to get them, which there are none. That's good. We can add a new one. What happened there? Looks good. We go to add new. I can say this is called active. At 0, we'll give them 5. Okay, one thing I want to fix in my modal. So we want this. Here. And I also want to get my key up dot enter is equal to your we'll say ngIf equals data dot status name does not equal to undefined and data.status name does not equal to null and data.status name does not equal to that. And we want to have a function in here called onClick. We want to say that this is my close dialog. Or we'll say save status. And we want to say the same thing here. And then the same thing here. And then there. And your data.quantity is greater than 0. And your data.time since last is greater than 0. So save status, we want to say is a save status. And in this, I want to say this.dialogRef.close. And if I look at my this.data.isConfirmed, we want to say true. And we want to call this close, and we want to pass in this.data. Now here we want to say, we want to have in this a private toaster service. And we're going to say, if this.data.status name is equal to undefined, or this.data.status name is equal to null, or this.data.status name is equal to nothing, and we're going to do a this.toaster service dot warning, you must enter a status name. Enter status name. Okay, else if this.data.timesecond is less than or equal to 0, then we want to do this thing again, which is you must enter a time since last activity in seconds greater than 0. Enter time since last activity. And then else if my this.data.quantity is less than or equal to 0, then we want to do a this.toaster service.warning, you must enter a quantity greater than 0. A quantity 0 or greater. Like that. And we're going to say quantity must be 0 or greater. And then if all that is done, then you're going to say that it's confirmed and you'll close the dialog. So we're looking at my statuses. There are none. Looks good. We add one. We're going to say it's status active. And it's going to... Oh. Okay, so this failed because... That's okay. Let's stop it. And I want to say... this.data.time does not equal to undefined, and this.data.time does not equal to null, and this is an or. Else this.data.quantity is equal to undefined, or this.data.quantity is equal to null, or it's that. Let's try it again. We look at streams. We look at active. We don't have one, which is great. Click on add. I say active 0. Gotta fix it. Okay, I add a new status here. I call it active. It says you must enter a time. So I'll say 0. My quantity must be greater than 0, so I could say 5. Now, why isn't my button here? There we go. And we click save. It'll want to create it. Everything looks good. It should pump into a create, and it does. We map it across the pipe. It says could not create status to status create request to status. Because we need to ignore this one. We want to ignore the ID. Stop it and run it again, and we should be good to go now. We do a login. Check streams. Look at pixels. Looks good. We do an add a status. I call it an active with a time of 0 and you get 5. We create it. Unrecognized good format. Because you need to do a if I look at my request, it tells me the ID is... So if I change this to be a question mark, oh, it can already be a nullable type. So in here, instead of saying that my status where I do this, we're just going to make this undefined. We'll try one more time. My time since last activity is 0 and we want 5. We create it. We add it. Saved correctly. And we should get our success. And here's our active. It never said that I did my this dot loading equals false. So the next one here would be inactive, which should be 903. The next one here would be Lurker, which is 3000, and it's 1. And then we'll add one in here for idle, which will be 9000 and 0. So now that that's done, what we would like to see is these statuses populating here. But I'm actually out of time for the day, so thank you for staying with me today. I will be back, let's say, I might be back this afternoon, but just for safety, we're going to say tomorrow morning. So if you haven't, make sure you check us out at our Discord, discord.pixelhorrorstudios.com. If you have any questions, I also put these videos up at youtube.pixelhorrorstudios.com. So I think that looks pretty good. So thanks again, guys, for staying with me. I will see you a little later, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.